In this video, we'll be doing lesson 6-6, where we look at proportions and percents. So when we're setting these up, we're going to be using percents, parts, and wholes. Every time we set it up, we're going to set it up in this fashion, where we have a percent over 100 equals part over whole. So as we learn this, we're going to figure out how to figure out what the percent is, what the part is, and what the whole is in the problem. And then you're just going to set it up in this fashion with two fractions every single time. To help you find the whole, a little clue is that the word of often comes before the whole. So if we have a problem and it says of some like a number, then that number is going to be the whole. So let's talk about what this means. It says, what percent, we're over here, what percent of 40 is 6? So it says what percent, meaning we don't know the percent. It says of 40, so that means that 40 is going to be our whole. And then it says is 6, so 6 is going to be our part. So setting these up in that fashion, you're going to have percent over 100. We don't know the percent, so they used a variable over 100. Then we're going to have our part, which is 6, over our whole, which is 40. So all we did was plug in percent over 100, part over whole, using the information from this problem. Okay, so that's how it's gonna look when you're missing the percent. If you have the percent and it says what number is 15%, so that's obviously your percent, of 40, so 40 is going to be our whole, so that what number that we have left is going to be our part that we don't know. So to set this up, 15%, they put 15 over 100 because we have percent over 100 equals part. We're going to put our part on top. We don't know what our part is, so they're just using an N. And then over the whole, which we know our whole is going to be 40. So if the thing you don't know is the part, you're going to have two numbers in this fraction and then something over 40. And then for this last one, it says 6 is 15% of what number? So we have 15%, so we know that's our percent. It says of what number? So of means that what number is going to be our whole, which means we don't know our whole. And then we have 6 as our part, because that's what's left. So again, they have 15 over 100. Part is 6 over the whole, which we don't know for that one, which is n. So it's always percent over 100 equals part over whole. Okay, so then you're using the word of to help you figure out the whole. The percent will always have a percent symbol, so then it's easy to figure out those two, and then you can figure out the part from there. So let's look at this first example. It says, find 23% of 158. So 23%, that's going to be our percent. Then it says of 158, so that's going to be our whole, which means the thing that we're missing is our part. Okay, so we're going to set up our two fractions. So they have 23 over 100, and then we're going to have part over whole. They're using an N for part, so we're going to use an N over our whole, which is 158. Okay, so we have 23 over 100, because that's the percent over 100, equals part, which is N, and we don't know, over whole, which is 158. Now we're going to multiply in that cross product way that we've been doing with fractions. So we're going to multiply the top of the first one by the bottom of the second one. So we're going to have 23 times 158 equals 100 times n. 23 times 158 is going to give me 3,634. And then we're going to have 100 and n. If we divide both sides by 100, so that all that's left on that side is an n, divide both sides by 100, 3,634 divided by 100 is going to give me 36.34. So 23% of 158 is 36.34. So setting it up is new. The percent over 100 equals part over whole, but solving it and using the cross products is something that we've done in multiple lessons before this. So that part shouldn't be too complicated for you. All right. For this next one, what percent of 34 is 28? So we have what percent? We don't know, so our percent is missing. We have of 34, so 34 is our whole. And we have is 28, so 28 is our part. So to set up our fractions, we have n over 100, because we don't know our percent, so we have an n over 100, and then part over whole. So we're going to do 28 over 34, because that's our part over our whole. Now we're going to do our cross products. So we have 34 times n, and we have 100 times 28. Okay, 34 times n gives me 34n. 100 times 28 gives me 2,800. To get them both by themselves, or get the n by itself, we need to divide by 34 on both sides, because then we can cross off the 34s and we just have an n. 2,800 divided by 34 is going to give me 82.35, and then so on. And we're going to round it, and we're going to say 82.4. So 28 is approximately 82.4% of 34. So when we're writing our answer, we need to pay attention to what we were looking for. Since we were looking for a percent, we have that percent symbol. In this one above, we were looking for our part, because we didn't have a part, so there's no percent symbol, because there's already a percent that was being used. So you have to pay attention to what you were solving for to make sure that when you need a percent symbol, you have a percent symbol. So since it was what percent, our answer should include a percent symbol. All right, when you're ready, go ahead and flip your paper over, and we'll start on the back. A tile floor has 90 blue tiles, which is 15% of all of the tiles in the floor. How many tiles are in the floor in all? So we have 15%, which is going to be our percent. We have of all the tiles in the floor, which we don't know, so we don't know our whole, which means that our part is 90 blue tiles. So setting up our fractions, we have 15 over 100, because we have percent over 100, equals part over whole. Part is 90 over our whole, which we don't know, so we're using an x. So to set it up, we have 15 over 100 equals 90 over x, because that's percent over 100 equals part over whole. Now we're going to do some cross products. So we have 15 times x equals 100 times 90. 15 times x is just 15x. 100 times 90 is 9,000. We're going to divide both sides by 15 to get that x by itself. X equals 600. So the floor has 600 tiles in all. We don't need to do the quick check. You guys are good. So setting it up is the part where you have to pay attention to the part, percent, and the whole. But then solving it is using those cross products and solving the way we've been solving. So that part is not new. Okay. Let's do A together. So we're looking for 25%. So this is our percent of 124. So of 124 means that's our whole. And that means that we don't know our part. So to set this up, we're going to solve it and then we're going to fill in this model afterwards. So let's set it up to solve it first. First fraction is percent over 100. So we're going to say 25 over 100 equals. Then we have part over whole. We don't know our part, so we put an x over whole, which is 124. So all I did was set up the problem. Then I'm going to do my cross multiplying. So I'm going to have, oh, we're going to run out of room. They did not give us very much room. Okay, well, we'll just go behind for now. So 25 times 124 equals 100 times x. And then we're going to come over here because I'm going to run out of room. 25 times 124 is going to give me 3,100 equals 100x. Okay, so all I did was 25 times 124. I wrote the answer right here. Equals 100 times x. That's 100x. To get the x by itself, if I divide both sides by 100, then I get equals x on that side, and I get 31 on the first side. So 31 is my part. So I can go back up here and I can put 31 as my part. Then they want us to fill in this picture. Okay, well, we know that 25%, so we're going to put, see how they have percents on this side? So we're going to put 25% over here. And we don't know, we don't know our part and we know our whole. So our whole is 124. Well, we do know our part now, because we solved it. It's 31. So they want us to fill in the coloring. Like they want you to color these boxes. So 25% of these boxes. So if I looked at this and I'm going from 0 to 100%, 25, 50, 75, 100%. So to color in 25% of it, I just color in the first box. So what this shows you is that 25% of the 100%, right, is colored in. And over here, we figured out that 25% of that whole, which is 124, is 31. So this is just like a visual representation. So this box on this side will always be your percent. This box will always be your whole. And this box will always be your part as you're filling it in. So after you solve, you can go back and fill it in. Okay, so let's go ahead and try B and C on our own with the video paused, and then we'll come back and solve them together. If you need more room, you can always go and write up here. And then just make sure you do your image down here. All right, pause your video and do those, and then we'll come back together. Okay, so we have 43%, so that is our percent. We have of 230, so that is our whole, and we don't know the part. So to set this up, we have 43 over 100 equals x over 230, because we don't know our part, and that's over our whole. Now we're going to do our cross products. So we have 43 times 230 equals 100 times x. 43 times 230 is going to give me 9,890 equals 100x. If I divide both sides by 100, I get 98.90 equals x. So that is my part, because that is what I was solving for, 98.90. So now, filling in my chart, we said that this one is the percent, 43%. We said this one was the part, so 98.90. And this one is the whole, which was 230. And then I just need to color in 43% of it. So if this line is 50%, then let's say that 43% is somewhere up in this range. And then I would color in 43% of my bar. Okay, And then for C, hopefully what we did, we should have noticed that 12.5% was our percent of 80 was our whole. And again, we didn't know our part for this problem. So we're going to set it up the same way. So we have 12.5 over 100 equals x over 80, because that's part over whole. And then we're going to do our cross products. 12.5 times 80 equals 100 times x. 12.5 times 80 gives us 1,000 equals 100x. If we divide both sides by 100 to get x by itself, we're going to have 10. So our part is 10. So then to fill it in, this one's our percent, 12.5%. Our part is 10, and our whole is 80. So we need to color in 12.5%. So again, if this line is 25%, 12.5 is about halfway to that. So we're just going to color in this much of our bar. So that's what you should have for B and C. If not, make sure you go back and fix those. There will be some on the homeworks where you are drawing things, so make sure you understand how to draw them as well. All right, so this one says, what percent, so we don't know our percent, of 250, so that's our whole, is, oops, wrong color, is 138, so that's our part. So this time to set it up, we don't know the percent, so we're going to have x over 100, because we don't know the percent, equals part over whole. So we're going to have 138 over 250. And then we're going to solve it the same way we've been solving. So we're going to have x times 250 equals 100 times 138. X times 250 is just 250x equals 100 times 138 gives me 13,800. If I divide both sides by 250 to get the x by itself, and then I'm going to write my answer over here because I ran out of room, x equals 55.2%. Notice that since we were looking for the percent, I made sure that my answer had a percent symbol in it. So if you have a variable above the 100, you need to make sure that in your answer you have a percent symbol. So go ahead and do B and C. Make sure you're checking what it is you're missing and what it is you know. Percent over 100 equals part over whole. Pause your video and do those two, and then we'll come back together and check them. Okay, so 14 is what percent of 15? So what percent? We don't know our percent of 15. So that's our whole. Is 14. 14 is our part. So to set this one up, we're going to say x over 100 equals part over whole. So 14 over 15. Cross products are going to be x times 15 equals 100 times 14. 15x equals 1,400. Divide both sides by 15 to get that x by itself, and x is going to equal 93.3%. Okay, so we were looking for a percent, so again, I have a percent symbol in my answer. All right, this time, 75%, so we know our percent. That is our percent. Of what? Of what? So what is our whole? We don't know. And then 19 is, so 19 is our part. So setting this up, percent over 100. So I have 75 over 100 equals part over whole. So we're going to have 19 over x because we don't know our whole and we know our part. Cross products. Ooh, wrong thing. 75 times x equals 100 times 19. 75x equals 1,900. Divide both sides by 75 to get that x by itself, and x equals 25.3. I wasn't looking for a percent, I already have it, so my answer does not have a percent symbol. Okay, make sure you pay attention to that. We are going to not do this one. So we're going to stop here. So that's going to wrap up lesson 6-6, where we're looking at proportions and percents.